It's my last recap of Beverly Hills for the season. I have a lot of emotions, mostly anger and sadness and disappointment, but I have to say, I'm still Team Garcelle. I'm still Team Garcelle. I support her. You don't have to agree with me, and I admit that she has faults and did things wrong and did deserve to get called out on some things. But overall, I see why she did this, and I think the clues are there if you're ready and willing to look for them with me. So follow along, and I hope you enjoy this recap. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers, here for your final Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. And, I have some feelings about this reunion. The first two, I was pretty irritated, right? I was angry, annoyed, irritated. Those are the words. This last one, I felt less of that, and I felt more just sad. Like, I just felt really sad for Garcelle, and I'm going to get into it, but I'm glad that this reunion is over. I'm glad that this season of Beverly Hills is over. It feels so, and again, I'll talk about this in the recap, but it feels so toxic and heavy that it almost feels like a weight has been lifted, and even though like there's nothing with like, there's no like storyline necessarily that is like so toxic, it's not like, on the Valley where you have like Jax being like abusive and drug addiction and like two divorced people like screaming at each other. It's not like even like what's going on in Atlanta. Yet this one, despite all that, it still feels the most toxic. Like, and that says something. And I think part of the reason too is that it's not a fun show, at least anymore. It's never been like one of the funnest shows. Well, maybe it did in like the start. No, even at the start, like there was that whole Russell Taylor thing. But even like LVP and Kyle's relationship in the past brought some lightness to it. And then when Lisa Rinna first started, there was lightness to it. But then it just got kind of dark and it's just sort of stayed that way. But watching these reunions has been kind of heavy, and I'm glad that it's over because I just, as you know, the last two episodes, I've been pissed. Okay, I have been. This one I didn't feel that as much. I felt more sadness watching Garcelle because I just really could empathize with how she's feeling. And I'll get into that, when we get into the recap. And, it's one of those things like with Beverly Hills, it's like people are so into it and they love analyzing and deconstructing and whatever when talking about it. So I enjoy covering it from that perspective. And because like I genuinely like the show. I'm always interested in the dynamics and I always find them interesting to like from like an analytical perspective. From a sheer like funny perspective, no. For that, I go to Salt Lake City, right? Or one of the other shows, Potomac, right? Or Miami. But for, kind of analyzing like group behavior dynamics, like mean girl dynamics and those kind of like toxic friendship dynamics. I mean, Beverly Hills is the place to go. Not that we don't have toxic friendship dynamics on all housewives, because we do, but Beverly Hills, they almost take it to like another level. And it's a scary level. Like it's not fun, right? And that was really what we witnessed is and they don't do it in this like in your face, like aggressive type of way, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Whereas on other franchises, they'll like run you over with a car. And well, I'm not referring to Shannon and Karen, by the way. I really, I just realized that I was like, oh yeah, wait, we've had housewives crash cars. Okay. On the other franchises, they will, yeah, I'll keep using that as my analogy because I can't think of anything else. They'll run you over with a car, like, and they'll honk. It's coming, you know? Whereas on this franchise, it's like these tiny, it's like they just poke you with little tiny needles for like 10 years until you're finally like, I can't take it anymore, you know? It's like a slow torture. That's Oh, this is a very flattering description of this cast, isn't it? But you know who I'm talking about, right? We know who I'm talking about when I say this. So, okay, so let's just get into it. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Did any of that make sense? I don't know. Okay, so I'm not going to be as mad today. Maybe to the disappointment of some of you, because I know some people love that. But I'm sure I still will be, actually. But I have to say that I felt defeated after watching this third part. So I see why Garcelle felt it. Okay, listen, Sutton should not have said what she said on the after show about Bose, which was the direct quote is, "What did I do to make you almost angry at me?" She should know better at this point. She just should. Okay. So there's no excuses for that. There is some online discourse about it. And, you know, there's not as much as I would have thought because people are so involved in discussing Garcelle's departure. But listen, you know, I think Bose had a point about this for sure. And I also think that I can understand why some people are like, well, why is it like Garcelle's responsibility to call Sutton on that, especially when Bose watched this show and chose to come on and befriend Dorit, who's been like the queen of microaggressions for the last 8 years or whatever, or so however long Garcelle's been on, basically, which is fair. Like, I can understand that argument as well, you know, and that doesn't mean that, like, I think Bose has the right to call Sutton on it, but I do understand why there is a lot of people who are like, how are you going to call Garcelle on this when you're sitting there next to Dorit? Which, and I mean, listen, being friends with Dorit doesn't erase, you know, what Sutton has said and doesn't make it any more right. But it is interesting that it seems like that Garcelle had to kind of answer for it more. And I think that's tick number one for why Garcelle walked out at the end. Like, I'm making a list and I'm checking it twice of all the reasons that led to that walkout because there wasn't one overt thing. And, you know, and I think a lot of people are confused by that. They thought there was going to be like a smoking gun, including myself. However, in true Beverly Hills fashion, there was not a smoking gun. It was, again, death by 1,000 paper cuts. And you really have to like deconstruct and look at the subtext, right? And in this case, that's check one, right? Garcelle, you could tell Garcelle was like, this is the first time hearing about this. You know, there's another Black woman on the show. After all these years, I've been the only one. Now there's another one, and she's calling me on not calling out Sutton. And I didn't even clock that Sutton said that. Now, in the after show, I watched that episode. Listen, Garcelle's right there. She's right next to Sutton. But I don't think that, and no, I don't think that Garcelle didn't hear it. But I think there's a difference between hearing it and clocking it. Do you know what I mean? So I think she heard it, but I don't think she interpreted it as the like angry Black woman stereotype. I don't think she interpreted it as Sutton trying to put that on Bose. And yes, that could be because Garcelle has a affinity bias towards Sutton because that's her friend. It could also be that they were just having a fluid conversation about what they were asked about and she just didn't think of it in that moment, which she's a human, okay? And, and I've said some people say that in the context of how Sutton said it, they don't feel like it was like the angry black woman thing. It was more just like a discussion of the moment. I don't know. I think it doesn't necessarily matter. I'm not like the final authority on this, but I just think that it was a stupid thing of Sutton to say. And then she made it even worse with the yelling thing, because clearly Bose was not yelling. Okay. This does go along with one of Sutton's biggest faults, which is that when people do come at her and criticize her, sometimes it doesn't always like start out that bad. And then she goes from like 0 to 100. Like I talked about this in one of the earlier episodes in one of my recaps where there was a part where like I think it was Erika who said to Sutton like don't like, oh, I'm not finished yet. And then Sutton kind of flies off the handle just from the I'm not finished yet. And Erika, like, I can't stand Erika, but she didn't say it even with attitude. She just said it like, can I finish my point sort of thing. And she said it pretty neutrally. And then Sutton was like, oh, like, so, Sutton does do that. You know, she's a little too defensive and sensitive like to any critique or and on top of that she's being, as Andy and Ariana Maddox would say, obtuse when it comes to this specific situation, because then there's the added layer of why are you saying angry and yelling about a black woman and perpetuating that stereotype. As Sutton should know better, right? So it's a whole layer of stuff, right? Now, and again, I believe when Garcelle said she didn't hear it, I believe her. Like, I don't think she clocked it in the moment. She looks genuinely surprised. And I'm sorry, but Garcelle is not, she has flaws, but she's not a liar. I've never seen her to be a liar. Okay, where were we? Where was I? Okay, and then Dorit. Okay. This was probably my favorite part of the reunion. This was the only thing where I really, besides like Jennifer Tilly and Kathy Hilton, where I actually laughed. But Dorit is like, what am I doing to reinforce the narrative that you're a drunk? And then Sutton's like, bringing it up on camera. Like, like when Dorit said that, I was like, girl, there's examples. I'm sorry. And then the best thing was Andy. I died. He's like, here's an example from Instagram. And he pulled it up so fast. He was so ready. I just thought that was hilarious. I was dying. And it was a great example. And then and then Dorit, so she gets proven wrong in that moment. Even though Sutton couldn't come up with specific examples, and there's two specific examples. There's the 4th of July party. Was it 4th of July party? Whatever. The party at Dorit's house and the little kind of underhanded comment when they were at the restaurant with the party where they wore the caftans. So there's two specific examples. Like Sutton was so ill prepared for this reunion. And I don't even know if it's ill prepared or just sedated. Like, what is happening? It's one of those two. Either way, it was very frustrating. But then, so Dorit still gets proven wrong because Andy comes in for the assist, which I was shocked. But I don't think Andy cares like that. Like, I don't think Andy likes Dorit that much. I've never gotten that impression. But as soon as she gets proven wrong about the drink narrative, Dorit, she has no response. She turns it around on Sutton, is like, well, you're the one who started it. Like she's like, well, don't I have the right to, respond because you said this? And this is right from the Kyle Richards playbook, right? This is what Erika, Dorit, and Sutton, not Sutton, Erika, Dorit, and Kyle do. The second you bring up something and you have a point and they can't argue back, they all of a sudden are like, okay, well, let me talk about how actually you're the one who started it and it stems from you. And it's funny because Dorit is so frustrated with Kyle for doing that. And that's exactly what Dorit is doing. Dorit tried to call Kyle on like, here's things you did that hurt me. And Kyle's like, well, I did it because you made me mad first because you went on Watch What Happens Live and you did it. So it's the exact same thing. Like, I mean, the hypocrisy on this cast is rampant, especially with those three. Okay. Where else? No, Dorit, you wouldn't. What did I write? You wouldn't do more because you and your minions are passive and poke. You don't do things aggressively. Why did I write that? Oh yeah, because Dorit was saying that it's not a threat, but it's she's gonna whatever fight back in the future and I guess be more aggressive about it. But I don't think she will, because Dorit and those girls they're passive in a lot of ways when it comes to the way they attack. And it's almost, to me, it's worse. Like the passiveness is worse. And because it's like sneaky and like snake-like, and they just poke and poke. They don't do things like, if they did things like aggressively or even not even aggressively, just told people straight up what issues were, and in like instead of like poking at people and just until they drive them insane, if they just like faced everything head on, I think a lot of us would be a lot less annoyed with them. I can't listen to Dorit's voice anymore. I like, by the end of this reunion, I was so done with just the tone and cadence of her voice. I never realized how annoying Dorit is when she talks, and I think it's because she's not usually given. Like, we all know she's long-winded, right? But even when they display her long-windedness on the show, it's usually like, edited with some like clown music in the background or something. Or even at the reunion, she has her moments of going long, but generally she hasn't been that much at the center of drama the last few years, until she was like almost on the chopping block and then decided she was going to be transparent about her divorce, sort of. And then now she's like first seat and she's not shutting the fuck up. And it's I cannot, like, she's the type of person who I can only handle in small doses, very small doses. Having her talking as much as she did this reunion was truly painful, not fun, annoying. I felt dumber after listening to her. Like, the list goes on. Okay, so I don't know if I can, ugh, God, like, of course I'm gonna watch it because I do this, I podcast, whatever, I do my account. So yeah, I'm gonna watch it, but I really don't need Dorit on my TV anymore. I just don't. There's nothing likable about her to me. I'm good. I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say. Erika, I'm good on too. I'm good on those two. How about we get the Dorit and her sidekick? I don't know. We need a name for her. Porika? I don't know. That sucks. Okay, let's think of one, everyone. I need them off the show. Like, I just, what did Nene say? Freak and fraud. They're declassing the show. That's exactly how I think a lot of us feel. Okay. So Sutton says she should have just laughed it off when Dorit made that alcohol comment. Why is it only the people who get come after by, sorry, that was a terrible sentence, by Kyle, Dorit, and Erika? Why is it always their responsibility to control their reaction, and it's never the responsibility of the person who comes at them? Like, why is it's always like Sutton is at fault, or Garcelle or whoever is at fault because they didn't respond in the way that they quote unquote should have to the bullshit mean thing that you said in the first place. And like, yes, I understand we can only control our reactions to things. We can't control other people. That is true. But like, they don't apologize for their side. And that's what bugs me. They just deflect. Also, yes, Dorit, people are okay with making self-deprecating jokes. Okay. And they're not okay with being shit on by you. It's actually very common. Okay. I was thinking of an analogy for this. And somebody who feels they've gained weight, for example, might make some self-deprecating jokes about themselves. Okay. Maybe it makes them feel better. Maybe they like to laugh it off a little. It's a coping mechanism. That doesn't give you the right to call them a fat fuck. Right? That doesn't give you the right to make comments about their body. Right. And sorry, but I was just using that as an example of like an insult. You can't be like, oh, well, you made like a joke the other day about how, no, it doesn't work that way. Okay. Or if it does, get ready for the person to be mad and you're going to hurt someone's feelings. So that's what pisses me off about Dorit is like she has no ability or doesn't want to be able to see the nuance, the context in the situation. Like, I don't know. Anyways, so it's very annoying to me. Like, yes, it's Sutton's maybe insecurity and thing that could be a problem for her. So yeah, she's allowed to make jokes. You're not. Okay? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. All right. So Sutton's right. Dorit is making threats, by the way. Erika says to Sutton, I've also cussed them out privately. So when they're talking about like the people who questioned her that season, because Sutton is like, well, what about Kyle? What about Dorit? And then Erika's like, well, I've also cussed them out privately. And then she adds in this little like privately and she slightly lowers her voice. And I was like, okay, first of all, I heard that. We all did, obviously. And secondly, why do only Erika and Dorit get the privilege of being cussed out privately? And why are you cussing them out privately? Why aren't you doing it on the show? I thought the point of the show was that you're supposed to be open and honest, as Kyle said, and share your feelings and share your reality, especially when it comes to this friend group. And as all of you said at the end, when Garcelle walked out, that's the show. That quote unquote, that's what we do here. So why aren't you doing it? Why does this is the inherent problem. Why does your little group get this sort of like privilege where you get to address things off camera and then I'll be like, hunky dory on camera? Remember when I said I wasn't going to be angry this recap? Okay. And then the whole, well, we're not talking about me. We're talking about Sutton right now. Well, when do we ever talk about anyone else? It's like the only thing that those three seem to want to talk about when it comes to like who said the wrong thing, who reacted in the wrong way, it seems to be only Garcelle and Sutton. And in this case, mostly Sutton. And I think the reason that like the other three of them, they can have fights between each other, but it just doesn't, it feels like it was sort of planned ahead of time. Like it just doesn't feel authentic. I don't know why, but that is how it feels. Well, I do know why, because it's probably not authentic. Okay. Where was I? And the whole, okay, sorry, no, not that. Ignore me. Okay, so when it comes to Sutton, okay, so Erika says, when it comes to Sutton, we're not railroading. Like, I was so annoyed when Erika said that. That is all you guys do. That is what drives me crazy. And I'm not saying that Sutton doesn't do it too. I'm not saying that they all aren't guilty of it to a point. But what I'm saying is that it's like Erika's like, no, we're not deflecting. We're not railroading. We're talking about Sutton right now. It's like, okay, but every single time anyone accuses you guys of anything, that's exactly what you do. And your queen bee, Miss Kyle Richards, is the worst offender of them all. Like, I could think of at least 10 examples just from this year's reunion. Don't even get me started on the past 14 years, because, like, I could write a book with chapters and volumes and shit, and an epilogue. Okay, where was I? When, unfortunately, okay, so then Andy asks a good question, which is like, well, what's the difference between when she does it and she does it? And Erika says the difference is intent when it comes to Sutton questioning. Well, unfortunately, there's I get what she's saying, but there is a little bit of a flaw in that because intent is not as important as impact. So, that's why even like in the past, like when Garcelle called Kyle on, her not paying for the, well, she did, but like not paying for the charity or whatever it was back in that, Garcelle said, I don't think you like intended that, but, it still impacted me. And Kyle seemed to understand that, right? When they had that discussion. So, even I don't think the intent is as important as Erika's saying. It is like, if they still hurt you when they questioned you, it's still okay to acknowledge that. Which, I mean, I think she did, I guess. Again, privately. None of us got to see it, of course, because God forbid they are real about anything. And again, it's also hard to prove intent. That's the other thing. Like Sutton could, like she didn't, but she could have made the argument that like, I was asking questions because I'm concerned for you or whatever. But I mean, yeah, that would have been a hard one to prove because she clearly wasn't. Listen, the intent was to make a good show. And I think that's the other thing that a lot of fans have been mad about is we just don't feel like, the Fox Force 5 have ever had that intent. Their intent seems to always be to protect themselves. And that's it. Protect themselves and each other and bully whoever's outside of their clique. So I think that's very frustrating for people. Well, I know it is. So Garcelle says Sutton does poke, but it depends on, if she's rattled by someone in the group and, they all have things that bother them. And then, which true. And again, Erika has this face like she's so surprised that Garcelle, called Sutton on something. But the truth is that Garcelle does this. She's done this many times. And they just do this fucking like gaslighting thing, like acting like she never does. Even though in actuality, they're much worse with it because they will fiercely bend the truth or they will fiercely like try to change other people's perception of reality or gaslight, etc., in order to defend each other. Garcelle then says that she's pissed and doesn't want to answer questions about anything. Okay. This was a surprising moment for me, just that specific moment, but it wasn't surprising to me that it happened because you could see it on her face. Now, I don't know exactly which comment was like the straw that broke the camel's back for Garcelle here, but it might have to do with the fact that like they kept kind of things kept coming back to Garcelle in terms of responsibility for Sutton. And, maybe she started to realize that like they're finding a way to come for me. Like they're finding a way to come for me, come hell or high water, even if it is about someone else's actions, who is my friend, yes, but who I do call out, because it's like Erika's done it, Bose has done it, right? They've all, had something to say in regards to that. Kyle too. So I'm not sure if this is her kind of like making these, I think she's realized this a while ago, but I just mean like the reality of it setting in that like there's not going to be any change. Like this group is not going to change. So then Sutton pipes in and says that she just doesn't feel liked by this group. And you know what? I was actually really glad she said that because that really is the root of every issue on this show is that you come in on this show and if you are not in their group or clique, you are sort of like you're subtly, passively ostracized. It's never like a direct in your face, which is how they like it, because then you can't call them on it, or it's very hard to call them on it, because then when you do, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I never said that. I like you. What do you mean? Right. And then they make you feel like the crazy person and the idiot. But yeah, it is the root of the show, and it is the reason that so many fans, in my opinion, are having trouble wrapping their head around why Garcelle left. That's the reason why we're getting a lot of like, what, Garcelle can't handle the heat. She just walks out. Garcelle this, Garcelle that. Here's the thing. I understand it's not like on other shows where we've seen people walk out and we get why, because they have 7 people screaming at them. Or like it's like aggressive and obvious, and it's like when everybody's yelling at like Raquel on Vanderpump Rules reunion, like that, you understand why someone gets up and walks out, or some life-changing rumor or something about their family or kid, and everyone's like, holy shit, but for Garcelle, it is all those things. They've just been done kind of slowly and in kind of like these more subtle ways over the years, you know? And then, when she has reacted and wanted acknowledgement, she's gotten it a little bit, but, she's also gets gaslit. Okay. For example, the example that really stands out is the whole thing with her son. Okay. So, it's not like they sat on stage and one person during the reunion was like, well, it's not our problem that your son, blah, 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 blah. Like, no one ever said it like that, but it was the general lack of care, so it's usually a lack of something that I think hurts Garcelle and Sutton is you're not getting something from them rather than getting something. Whereas on other shows, it's that you're getting something from people that you don't like. Whereas with this show, it's always that you're not getting it. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? I think it does. So I do feel that, and yes, Kyle and Dorit laughed about her son getting told to fuck off by Erika. So yes, that was something. And Erika had to just straight up apologize because she got drunk and had that moment, whatever. They did laugh about it. And did they apologize? Like, yeah, but did they also then kind of tell her that they apologized already? It's been a year. Like, why aren't you over it yet? So again, the way that Garcelle reacted to their bad behavior and the time that it took her to process and get over it wasn't right for them. Like for Dorit, it was like, well, why are you dragging this out? Why can't you get over it? Da-da-da-da. Like it's that again, I know I'm using the word gaslighting a lot. I know people overuse it, but in the case of this cast, specifically Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, this is the gaslighting cast. Like look it up in the dictionary and their picture should be there. So I have to use it. Okay. So I just like, I get it. I get why she's done with that. Okay. Anyways, I'm really jumping ahead. Okay. But actually, no, now I have a really good example. So Sutton says she doesn't think Erika likes her or even wants to be her friend. And then Erika acts shocked, mouth wide open. What? Like, what the fuck? And then said, no, I do want to be your friend. What are you talking? Erika, fuck off. You seriously, the way that you've acted towards Sutton, you think you are displaying the actions that would make someone think that you like them and want to be their friend? Like, again, that is gaslighting. Like now it's like, oh no, I've been acting like a fucking biatch to you, not to sound like Meredith Marks' husband. And now all of a sudden that you're saying, I don't think you like me or want to be my friends. Like I'm the crazy one, apparently. Like I'm meaning Sutton. So then, yeah, I was okay. Wait, where was I? So she wants to be your friend because okay. And then Erika's like, no, I do want to be your friend because I'm moving forward. And then she's like, hooray for me. And then, and then she says, I enjoy the sweeter, softer side of Sutton. So initially though, it's about her. Did we notice that? She doesn't say, I do want to be friends with you because I like you. She says, I want to be friends with you because I'm changing and I'm moving forward and hooray for me. Well, again, you haven't really told Sutton that you like her still or that you even want to be her friend. Then she kind of, I think Erika realizes that and throws in the sweeter, softer side. But initially, she tells us the truth, which is that really it's just about her image. Like Erika has to prove that she's not that person that she was, because she's on this redemption tour. Sutton says that, she feels ganged up on. Specifically, actually, no, then Andy says that, yeah, he saw that on the boat. And then Kyle, remember what I told you guys? Kyle will spend the next like 25 years proving to everyone that she's not a mean girl and that she is a girl's girl. She's going to keep trying and she'll keep failing at it. So don't worry, but she's going to keep trying to prove that. So then Kyle immediately jumps in. When Kyle hears the phrase ganged up by Andy, she's like, no, no, no. I am not letting the audience run away with we were the mean girl clique that gangs up on people. So she jumps in and she's like, no, it wasn't a gang up. Like, we're not allowed to call it. It wasn't even a gang up. She's like, because again, Kyle does not want to be associated with that. And then Sutton adds in, she's like, it was just Erika. So that's not a gang up, guys, because a gang requires more than one person at least. And then Sutton's like, well, it was Dorit too. And then Kyle's like, well, don't drag everybody into it. And then Dorit says Sutton needs to acknowledge how low she can go. She has. She has. Like, I'm sorry, but like, how many times, Dorit, do we have to go over the same fucking topic again? Like, I understand that you're long-winded and you like to explain everything over and over, but like, I'm so bored with this shit now, even. Like, it's even to the point of not even just frustration of just like, I'm over this conversation. And also, have you? When like Sutton has had to say that she goes low and that she shouldn't have said the wallet comment, but when has Dorit fully acknowledged and apologized? Exactly. Okay. You can tell Garcelle is holding back when Andy asks her what she's mad about, and specifically holding back tears. And this was the part where I felt it in my stomach because we have all been Garcelle in a way. Okay. Now, a lot of us have been, in terms of friendship dynamics, is what I'm talking about, by the way. A lot of us have been in a friend group or wanted to be in a friend group or whatever, right? Where, whether it was when we were little, older, at work, whatever, where we knew we weren't quite in, you know? And maybe the group was like, nice enough, like on the surface. But then, you get home and you go on Instagram and you see they all went out for dinner that night and they didn't ask you, but they're still like nice enough. They're still like fine, but you just can't get to that like next level. And, like you've got your own other group of friends, you've got your own whatever life, but you still just feel that twinge of like, why am I not included? Like, why don't they want me as well? And it can be a really hard thing, right? It can be really hard when, like, for Garcelle in this case, these are supposed to be people that you are building a friendship with, and she's been trying for like 5+ years, and she's still in this place of being like an outsider and shut out. Like, this is supposed to be, a group dynamic. This is supposed to be like a show about like adult female friendships and conflict, of course, but how they resolve it. But you still want to feel like a part of it. And she's been made to feel like an outsider from the start. And so was Sutton. And the two of them, I think, like trauma bonded over it. And, the two of them have just been kind of made to feel like the two misfits. And that's just a shitty feeling. just to know that like I'm with these people who just don't really like me. They don't really care about me. They never acknowledge my feelings. They never acknowledge me in like a real human way. And, and they're just ready to like use me whenever they need someone to be mad at or to gang up on. And there's the even more like, and that's just the level like the female dynamics and friendship, okay? And now I'm not even talking about the race dynamic yet. Then on top of that, you have Garcelle, the first Black woman on the show. She was the only Black woman for 5 years or whatever, however long it was. And she just like could not penetrate this group of white women who like never really let her in a real way. And, I can't even imagine the level of difficulty that I think that adds to it for her. Like I can only look at it obviously like from like just like the friendship standpoint, and even that's hard. So, adding that other layer of it and then maybe watching Bose come in and be able to kind of like get in there pretty easily and quickly and have the audience kind of welcome her with open arms, because Garcelle's gotten a lot of hatred online too. And I do think a lot of it is because Garcelle from the jump, she gave Sutton a fair chance, which the other kind of mean girls didn't want to do. And she also didn't go with the like group think, And I'm not saying that Bose does go with the group think, but what I do think she did was she befriended Dorit. And I think Dorit has sort of used Bose in a way. I'm not saying they don't have a real friendship or actually like each other, but I do think that it's kind of like a two birds with one stone. She's befriended her, but she's also kind of using her to sort of be like, see, guys, I'm not racist. I have a Black friend, right? And also, I think the girls have welcomed Bose because they're fine with somebody as long as that somebody is on their side in the way that they want them to, right? So right now, they're like, well, Bose is on our side. She's in our little team, right? The minute they feel like she isn't, they'll go after her too. The minute they feel like anyone isn't, they'll go after them, right? Like you can be on their side until you're not. And I think they never really believed that Garcelle, like because of Garcelle's affinity for Sutton and friendship with Sutton, I think they never really believed that that Garcelle would be like, could be fully in their group until she ditched Sutton. And because Erika sat Garcelle down and had that talk a couple seasons ago and gave her lecture, like, listen, you could be in the cool girls group, but unfortunately, you're friends with Sutton. It's holding you back. We'd let you in the sorority if you didn't have that loser best friend. And since you do, you're not getting in, right? But Garcelle stayed true to who she is, right? And she was like, no, I'm not going to like ditch someone who I genuinely like and am friends with just because you guys don't like her. But on the other side, why can't I be friends with her and also you guys? And you're never going to let me in any real way because I'm also friends with Sutton? And their answer is yes. Because in their group, friendship means you must conform to their rules. And, and one of their rules, probably the most important rule that they have, is that you have to be willing to go after whoever they feel like targeting. And it's usually Sutton. And Bose was down with that because I think Bose genuinely didn't really like Sutton that much, um, to be honest. And I think that, and now you might be saying, well, Kyle has kind of gone back, has started to be friendly with Sutton. Yes, but Kyle is the leader, so she's allowed to bend things. She's the exception, remember? Her divorce is special. Her everything that she does is special because she's the quote unquote queen, right? So she's allowed to do whatever. Okay. So and she's allowed, if she wants to like not get as much hate from the audience by like sort of being friends with Sutton and stringing her along, Erika and Dorit are going to be okay with that, you know? So that's why I think that Garcelle is just sitting there in this heavy, heavy sadness. Like, yes, she seemed, irritated and stuff when she walked off at the end, but I think it's truly comes out of sadness for like, in one way this show has been an amazing experience, but in another way, these women just like they will not let me in a real way. And it is just to make it simple, it's mean. It really is. She's right. She's never been given grace. She apologizes and it's never really accepted. No one acts like they really give a shit about her. Even when she's sharing her feelings now at this moment, when Andy asks her about, you know, what she wants to say and why she's so upset, Dorit is making a face. See, it's like, how can you really open up and stay around that type of toxicity, which to me is like the deepest level of toxicity? And then wait, where was I? And then yeah, so and I literally wrote here in my notes. I wrote my heart is broken. It's not okay. Um and then they kind of take a little break, and then I swear I heard Garcelle say that she can't stand the mall or something. I'm with you. I couldn't tell if it was her or Sutton, but I'm with you, Garcelle. I can't stand the mall. And then Sutton's response is they hate me. Again, Sutton, you're being really annoying. Like, I understand they just finished coming for Sutton, but she just always makes it about her. And this is the other problem is Garcelle doesn't have someone who fiercely defends her as much as she does. Not that like she'll call Sutton on things, so maybe that's why Sutton feels like she doesn't have to be as fierce as well, because like then they get called hypocrites, or no, then they get called like each other's mouthpiece. So I can understand that, but like look at your friend. She's she's very upset right now. Like just empathize with her and stop talking about yourself for a minute. Um then after they did that, so then they do that little break. And this was right after Garcelle had this like emotional moment where she said to Andy that, she doesn't feel like anyone gives her grace and that her feelings don't matter, that she, all that kind of stuff. She said all that kind of stuff. I thought it was so moving. I was so moved by it. I've never been so just like, I don't know. I don't even know how else to say it. I was really upset. And the point is that after that, they take a little break. No one checks on Garcelle. That's the point. That is the point. Besides Sutton, because she's sitting right there, and obviously not one of the other ones goes up to her, asks if she's okay. And you can tell she was fucking fighting back tears for the longest time. And I couldn't care less about this like single women segment. I don't give a fuck about this. Okay. I don't care about who Erika's dating because she's probably lying. And I don't care about Kyle and like I don't give a shit about any of it. Okay. It's funny too discussing Erika's son's privacy. I couldn't help but kind of clock that, especially considering that Erika was trying to say that like what has Garcelle shared? We know so much about Garcelle's sons and we have never seen your son. And no, you can't force him to sign a release and be on camera, etc. But besides your mother and Tom Girardi, we've never met anyone from your family. And okay, maybe there was like one like relative once, I don't even know, but we've never met any of your friends or even heard you talk about them besides the guys that you pay and then these women. Like, what do we know about you? Fucking faker. Okay. I'm not even going to comment on Erika's segment about the whole Tom Girardi thing because I don't care at all. And Erika's answer to all of it was such bullshit. Like he asked her about what she thinks about Tom Girardi getting sentenced, and she's like, "It doesn't matter what I think. The law is where it is." Okay, can you be interesting? The only possible interesting thing you could have said this whole reunion was maybe making a statement about like either I'm devastated or yeah, now that I hear that, I do think he was guilty. That would have actually been interesting. And you can't even do that. So can we stop acting like Erika's a good housewife? Because she sucks. And then Kyle gets so mad about the question about Kyle thinking she's the exception. It's true, Kyle. It's 1000% true. The person who wrote in that question is a perceptive genius. Yes, you think your divorce is special because you think you're the exception to fucking everything. And guess what? It's not special. It is the most basic tale as old as time that I've ever heard. Man and a woman get married at a young age, have a bunch of kids, grow apart. He wants to go fuck younger women, and she's sitting there crying about it. Tale as old as time, Kyle. You're not special. Sorry. Sorry, this sounds so mean. Listen, I'm not happy that this happened to Kyle. I don't want this to happen to any woman, but stop acting like you and Mauricio have some magical fairy tale Disney romance where he came in on a white horse. You got married young, you had some kids, you got some money and some fame, and therefore he got more options. And guess what? He took those options. You left him clearly because of cheating, even though you won't say that. And he's loving every second of it. He's out there with his 20-year-olds having a great time. This is the typical LA type of story, or like rich business guy who cheats on his wife with the secretary type of story. That is exactly what this is. This isn't some like romance fairy tale that you're trying to make it out to be. I'm sorry. I'm not saying you didn't really love each other at some point. I'm not saying that you didn't have a beautiful family. I'm not saying any of that, or that you guys didn't have good years together. No. But don't try to make the ending of it into something that it's not. Okay? Okay. Okay. Let me see. And no one is saying that her and Mo getting along is a mistake. No one's saying that. They're just saying that you need to open your eyes and be smart. Exactly what Erika said to Dorit when they were at Kathy Hilton's, like the one time Erika was right. But again, Kyle's the exception. So, okay, let her keep being dumb. Like, I don't care, honestly. Okay. Kyle says it's not because of the show that they got divorced. But then she goes on to cite fame and attention as the reason. So is that not a result of the show? Like, I understand maybe if got as rich as he did with the agency without the show, which I don't think he would have without the show, but let's just say it was that big on his own, then, you know, and again, I'm not saying it wouldn't have gotten big and successful, but maybe like having the exposure of the show took it to the next level. But, and I'm not saying, because money can do that as much as fame can. Like, you get these rich men in the corporate world who are doing this shit as well, and they're not famous. But you have to admit that people seeing him on TV and then going out to a club and being like, I've seen that guy on TV. Guess what? I know for a fact that he's rich and this, that, the other. That helps. It just does. I'm sorry. And then just admit he cheated. Oh my God. She's like, why do we have to dance around this? You're making it so obvious with all with the way that you're alluding to it. When they did that flashback to the old reunion when she's in the green dress, I was like, she basically said it. So stop with the I'm protecting my daughters, because you've already said it. So you may as well just say it. Like, it's so annoying. And then she says, so women are snakes. Okay, so it's all the women's fault. Yep. I thought, oh, remember, guys, though, she's a girl's girl. Kyle's a girl's girl. How about your husband controls himself? Like, maybe he's the snake. Like, it's so funny to me. Like, she's like, I'm like, you know what? I believe you, Kyle. You do have a great divorce, because Mauricio is the luckiest man alive. His ex-wife or separated wife or whatever defends his cheating and justifies it. She goes up on a stage in front of millions of viewers and blames the women in his DMs and blames herself, because then she says, well, we got married too young. He never got to like sow his wild oats. She pretty much says that. She says it's his fault because we got married young. He didn't get to quote unquote do his thing. Okay, so you trapped him. You trapped him when you were so young, and it's your fault. Like Kyle is willing to blame everyone but Mauricio. And yes, she blamed him in the sense that she got separated from him and divorced him, but she's still making excuses. Like both of those things are true. Okay. And this is like Kyle needs to change her thinking. I mean, she won't, but the fact that she can't see any of this is so wild to me. And I'm not saying that women who go into the DMs of a married guy and try to hit on a married guy aren't also snakes, because they are, yes. But at the end of the day, it's the married guy's, you know, it's the married guy's responsibility to be like, no, I'm married. Like that's the most basic thing, right? And like you can be mad at those women all day, but there's, you can be mad at like, Jane whoever over there, but Jane whoever can go away and then the next one's going to come. That's why you've got to trust the man and have that part be solid, because those people are always out there. Okay. Then Kyle says she was about to buy a house across the street from Lisa Vanderpump. And Kathy actually goes, why even mention that? Like the Lisa Vanderpump part? Like Kathy even knows that Kyle is fucking obsessed with LVP and can never stop mentioning her. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not like saying LVP is like some wonderful whatever. She has her own issues and faults for sure. But Kyle is obsessed with mentioning LVP. I'm sorry. Kyle's obsessed with LVP. I don't care what anyone says. Um, like, why did you have to throw that in? It's just. And then Andy says that Kyle alluded to something last reunion and he was surprised that she was acting obtuse about it on the show. Yes, that's what I was saying earlier. Sorry, I got my order of events mixed up, but it's like, why are you getting so mad at everyone for mentioning things that you already mentioned? See what I told you? Ultimate gaslighting. And Garcelle smile when Andy calls Kyle obtuse. I was like, oh, let Garcelle have a moment. That was great. And Kyle's answer is such bullshit to Andy. She says that she's not going to share everything. You're the one who alluded to it. If you don't want to share it, stop saying it. This is people's problem, is you give these little nuggets and then when people ask a follow-up question, you get pissed off. Like stop, like fuck off with that. That is the most frustrating, annoying thing ever. And I totally get why she has friends who are annoyed by that and why the audience is annoyed by that. I would be annoyed by somebody who's doing that to me in my life as well. Okay, Kyle says she doesn't want to talk about the father of her children. Okay, so that means you can't talk about your divorce at all and use it as a storyline, which you have been for the last 2 years. So can you get off the show now? Like, oh my God. So immediately after Andy asks her about who Mauricio's seeing, and then Kyle's like, okay, let's talk about it. Like, I thought you said you're not going to talk about it. Which is it? It's like, yes, she will. She just only wants to talk about the things that she gets to pick and choose. And I'm sorry, there's a little too much of that happening with this franchise. Okay. Kyle gets so mad when she has to answer questions about things that she said or alluded to. Yes, I talked about that. Sorry. Kyle even looked annoyed when Andy asked about her sexuality. So, but again, you're the one who made this a topic of conversation. I don't give a shit. Okay. It wasn't the press. It wasn't the audience. It wasn't the media's fault. Like, where do you think the media gets their content from? It is, and yes, they can twist things, etc. I get that. But the reason that there were pictures of you and Morgan is because you were out with Morgan and you were purposefully not being discreet and you made a video as lovers. So get out of here. Kyle talks about how it was like this hard conversation with her daughters. And I don't even know, I don't even know what she's talking about. Like when she was saying this whole speech about the conversation with her daughters, it was so vague, obviously purposefully vague, that like I was like, I don't even know what she's saying. Did you tell them that you are lesbian? Did you tell them that you might be and you're not sure? Did you tell them you're exploring your sexuality? Like, no one knows what you said because for some reason you think talking about it in this vague way is more private. Newsflash. You're on stage and there's cameras and there's like a million people watching. So, like, using vague word choice is not going to make your life, like, make this topic any more private. So just say it. I can't, guys. I really can't. So then we get to the end of the reunion. They stand up to cheers. You know, Garcelle does it. And then it's kind of like, okay, we're cutting. And then it's like, let's take a picture. And then Garcelle's like, I'm out. And listen, I get it. I get it because I think she like and I know this is controversial. I understand why a lot of people are mad that Garcelle didn't just stay and do the picture. I get that. I understand why people have the perception that she was being a baby. She didn't really face anything that was like that bad. And you know, people have had much worse like gang ups and stuff at reunions, and or the one time she gets called on something, etc. I get how it can look at that on how we can look like that on surface level, but I really do think that this was different. Okay, all the examples and things that people are comparing it to online, I think this is different. I really do. Because I think this is the only franchise where we've had, you know, one Black woman amongst a cast of all white women for years. And I think this is one of the most high pressure of all the franchises because it's the most watched in the last 5 or so years. And I also think that it's because of the way that this group operates. And like I said before, I think they're so passive about everything that I think it takes a while to kind of come to terms with the way that they are slowly poking and coming at you. And then when you finally do, I do think you snap and you realize that nothing will ever get better and nothing will ever change and there's no hope. And I do honestly think that, you know, if she really saw any sort of smidgen of hope, I do think she would have stayed. And I do also think that it's because her friend Sutton has clearly shown, especially in this third part of the reunion, where she said the most surprising thing was my friendship with Erika. And you can tell that Garcelle was bothered by that. I think she could tell Sutton has drank the Kool-Aid. She's not in the club, but she really wants it. And I just don't want it that much. You know, I don't want it. I don't need it. I was someone before this show. I'll be someone after this show. And this is just not worth it for me anymore. And like I get it. I totally get it. And I don't blame her. I don't. And I think I'm with her. Cuz like I'm beyond frustrated after watching these 3 parts of this reunion, and I can't imagine the way I would feel sitting there for 9 hours. Like and listen, I'm not saying Garcelle has no faults. You know, she brought up the Dorit robbery thing. You got to be ready for backlash from that. She got her backlash. You're going to get that. You're going to get some backlash with Kyle over the lesbian thing. Fine. Even though even that I think was kind of stupid because Kyle's basically baiting everybody. But listen, you're going to get some pushback. That's going to happen. Fine. But Garcelle's issue is not the pushback. Her issue is that when she apologizes and when she is honest about things, she gets like, no, everyone's just like, okay. But like, you can tell that they're holding on to it forever and that they're never really forgiving. Meanwhile, you know, they laughed at her son getting told off. They were friends with that disgusting woman who may or may not have had a role in those bots against her son, but, definitely antagonized it. And they never gave the depth of apology in any sort of like sincere, honest way. And then when she was still upset about them laughing about her son, Dorit got mad at her because you should be over it by now. So how are you going to sit there with these women when they say you should be over it, but you know that they are going to hold the things that you've done wrong. And again, Garcelle did those things wrong. Fine. But they are going to never let those go. But if you don't let it go, what they did, you're a piece of shit. So that's it. That's the end of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. My God. There is no one I'm looking forward to watching next season. I just want to put that out there in case anyone from Bravo listens to this. I have no interest in Dorit and Erika. They're not interesting to me. They're just not interesting people. Then there's, I enjoy Jennifer Tilly as a friend of. Keep her there, please, because I don't need her getting, gaslit and ganged up on by these women. Keep her as a friend of. That's fine. But, Sutton, I'm mad at. Doesn't mean she won't be entertaining, but I'm still mad at because of the whole Garcelle thing. And Kyle's just Kyle. She's like blah. And fine, Bose is entertaining, so that's okay. But again, is Bose just going to be like the new Fox Force 5 member? Like, where's the conflict going to be? It's hard for me to even see that. The only conflict I can imagine for next season is everyone versus Sutton, and that's not fun. Even if Sutton deserves it, it's not fun. I don't want to tune in and watch a gang up. Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but they need to do something. So, I don't know. I mean, good luck to them. They're going to need it. Because honestly, Garcelle and Sutton have pushed forward this show. They have been instigators. So, and yeah, they've been called on it, rightly so. But we also can thank them because they've instigated a lot and they've moved storyline. And now that Sutton doesn't have Garcelle, and also she's so desperate to be in this group, I don't think she's going to instigate. I think she's going to be a sedated, boring, whatever. She's going to be what we just watched at this reunion. And that sucks to watch. It was not entertaining at all, and I have no interest in it. So I don't know what they're going to do. Like, it's going to be like Pantygate or some bullshit like that. That's the only thing I can think of. And yeah, it's sad. It's the end of an era, guys. I'm very upset. Okay. All right, let's wrap up there because this has been a lot. Okay. Anyways, thank you all for listening, for joining in, for following along with me this season of Beverly Hills, and we will see what happens going forward. All right. You are now in the know for everything Beverly Hills. See you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. Your support really means everything to me, and this show wouldn't be possible without you, the listeners. So please, if you enjoy the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more, you can join my Patreon, patreon.com/BravoandBotox. And for $5 a month, you'll get 4 extra podcast episodes a month. You'll also get early releases of Bravo Paper episodes and more. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Bravo Papers and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Bravo and Botox and at The Bravo Papers. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can at buymeacoffee.com/Bravo and Botox. Send your love through some much needed caffeine. And any guest that was on today's episode will be in the show notes, all their social media and contact information. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep overanalyzing Bravo.